Some stories don't begin with betrayal. They begin with friendship. With trust. With the kind of bond you build brick by brick over years, never once stopping to check if the foundation is cracked, because why would it be? That's the illusion of closeness. You think you'd know if the people closest to you were cutting you open behind your back. You think betrayal comes with thunder. But in my case, it came in a wedding invitation. Ivory cardstock, gold lettering, embossed names at the top, Lindsay and Aaron. A date. A location. And beneath it, in smaller print, a handwritten note in blue ink, "It would mean a lot if you came. He wants to make peace with his past. So do I, L." Let me rewind. Aaron was my best friend since freshman year of college. We were the kind of tight that felt more like family than friendship. Road trips, hangovers, breakups, all of it. I helped him move 3 times, stood beside him when his dad passed, bailed him out when he got locked up over a bar fight that wasn't even his fault. Loyalty wasn't even something we talked about, it was just baked into everything we were. Lindsay came into the picture a few years after college. I met her at a friend's rooftop party. She laughed at one of my stupid jokes, the kind of laugh that makes other people turn their heads. The next day I texted Aaron, "Met someone." "She's something." He responded, "About time." It was slow and sweet, the way things are when you're old enough to know what you want and young enough to believe in it fully. She made me playlists, wrote notes on the bathroom mirror, bought me a mug that said, "Complicated but worth it." She said I was her safe place. 3 years. That's how long we were together. Long enough to talk about houses. Kids. The whole thing. I'll never forget the night it cracked. It wasn't even a fight. It was a Thursday. I came home from work, Lindsay was sitting on the edge of the bed, eyes red, hands shaking. Said she needed to talk. That she'd been feeling things she didn't expect. That she didn't know how to tell me. I braced myself for the usual suspects. She was tired, she was lost, she needed space. What I wasn't prepared for was 2 names in the same sentence. I slept with Aaron. That's when the world changed. She cried. Said it wasn't planned. Said it happened during a rough patch between us. Said it was once. Then admitted it was more than once. Said it wasn't just about the sex. Said she didn't want to lose me, but couldn't lie anymore. Aaron didn't call. Didn't text. Didn't say a word. I moved out that weekend. There's a moment in every heartbreak where something inside you goes still, not numb, not angry, just still. It's the moment you realize that the people you trusted most have rewritten the script of your life without asking you. That the version of you that existed in their story was disposable. Optional. Replaceable. I blocked them both. For almost a year, I rebuilt in silence. Got my own place. Changed routines. Went to therapy. Started going to the gym again, not out of vanity, but because lifting something heavy felt like the only thing I could control. I let the anger cool. Let the pain settle. Told myself I'd moved on. Then came the envelope. The invitation. To their wedding. I stared at it for hours. Not because I was considering going, but because I couldn't wrap my head around why they'd want me there. Why would anyone invite the man they both betrayed to stand in the same room where they vowed to love each other forever? Then I saw the note. He wants to make peace with his past. Like I was a loose end. A memory that needed tying off with a bow and a blessing. I didn't respond. Not right away. I left the envelope on my nightstand, where it sat like a wound that hadn't scabbed over. But a part of me, the part that still wanted answers, whispered something else. Go. Not to forgive. Not to celebrate. But to see it with my own eyes. To look them both in the face and finally understand what kind of people ask the man they shattered to watch them say forever. 3 days. That's how long I stared at that wedding invitation before I touched it again. It sat on the nightstand like it was waiting for me to flinch first. I kept telling myself I had nothing to prove. That silence was power. That not responding was my final word. But the truth? I wasn't silent because I was strong. I was silent because I didn't know what I wanted. Closure. A confrontation. Some half-baked moment of catharsis. I didn't know. Then, on a Monday night, I found myself typing one word into an email, attending. No flourish. No explanation. Just the confirmation they weren't expecting. I didn't tell anyone. Not my brother. Not my therapist. Not even Mark, who had been my rock through it all. Because deep down, I knew what everyone would say. Why would you go? Why let them see you? Why give them the satisfaction? But it wasn't about them. It was about me. About finally pulling the last shard out of the wound. The wedding was set for late June at some estate venue out in wine country. One of those places with sprawling lawns and converted barns made to look rustic but priced like royalty. I knew it'd be picture perfect. I also knew it would feel fake, like two people trying to wrap a fairy tale around a betrayal. I arrived early. I parked in the back lot, where the staff and vendors were unloading tablecloths and flower arrangements. I didn't want to make a scene, didn't want the grand entrance. I just wanted to be there, in it. To face it. The ceremony was outside, chairs set in neat rows on a sloping hill overlooking a vineyard. I took a seat near the back, tucked behind a small tree. People were trickling in, smiling, laughing, dressed like it was a second chance at a dream. And for them, maybe it was. But for me, it was a stage dressed in white, with the ghost of something I'd already buried. And then I saw her. Lindsay. Hair curled. Simple white dress. Bouquet clutched in both hands. She was laughing at something her sister whispered, but it wasn't the laugh I remembered. It was tighter. Lighter. Like she was trying to convince the world, maybe even herself, that everything was okay now. She spotted me before the music started. I saw her freeze, just for a moment. Then she nodded once, slow, like a thank you, or maybe a warning. I couldn't tell. Aaron came out next. Still tall. Still confident. Still the guy who used to slap me on the back and call me brother like it meant something. He looked good, tan, hair slicked back, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my first car. But I couldn't unsee what he was to me now. Not a friend. Just a man who cashed in our history for a future with someone I trusted. He hadn't noticed me yet. Not until the vows were starting. That's when his eyes swept the crowd and landed on me. I watched his jaw clench, just for a beat, before he turned back toward Lindsay. He kept smiling, but the mask had slipped. Just a crack. Enough to let me know he wasn't as at peace as he claimed. The officiant spoke like they always do at these things, about love, and growth, and timing. Said something about finding each other when the soul is ready. I almost laughed. Ready? They didn't find each other. They hid each other. There's a difference. They exchanged vows. Hers were emotional. His were polished. They kissed. The crowd clapped. And me? I didn't feel the rage I thought I would. I felt numb. Not empty. Just done. At the reception, I stood near the edge of the crowd, sipping a drink I didn't finish. I was debating how quickly I could leave without it seeming too obvious when Aaron found me. He approached like a man approaching a bear, cautious, voice lowered. "Hey," he said. "I wasn't sure you'd come." I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who knew my childhood, who held my secrets, who once said he'd die before he hurt me. I said, "You invited me to this. So either you're brave or you're a coward trying to wrap a bow around guilt." He didn't flinch. Just sighed. I just wanted to make peace. No, I said, setting my glass down. You wanted permission. That's not the same. He looked like he wanted to argue. Or explain. Or maybe just dissolve into the vineyard behind us. Instead, he said, I'm sorry. I nodded. Not because I forgave him. But because that was the end of the conversation. There was nothing left to say that hadn't already been said in silence. I left before the first dance. No drama. No goodbye. Just one man walking away from the fire without needing to stomp out every last spark. Leaving the wedding felt like stepping out of a movie where I'd never belonged in the first place. Everyone else had their roles, the bridesmaids in soft blush dresses, the groomsmen with their matching smiles, the champagne glasses clinking like the past had never happened. And then there was me. A ghost in a tailored suit, walking out into the parking lot with gravel crunching under my shoes and 8 years of history trailing behind me like a coat I'd finally decided to stop wearing. I didn't drive home right away. I parked on the shoulder just outside the venue, engine off, silence swallowing everything. The sky was fading into twilight, that soft purple hour when things look gentle even if they aren't. I sat there with my hands on the wheel, watching my breath fog the windshield, wondering why I still felt so unfinished. Because that should have been the ending, right? I showed up. I stood there. I looked them both in the eyes and didn't flinch. I said my piece, short, clean, true. And still, something inside me felt open. Like a door I hadn't noticed was still swinging. The answer came 2 days later. I got a message from Lindsay. Email, not text. Subject line, I need to say this. It sat unread in my inbox for a few hours. I hovered over it like it might burn me. But eventually, I opened it. It wasn't long. Just a few paragraphs. She said she knew inviting me was selfish. That part of her still needed to be seen by me, still wanted me to look at her and not see the worst thing she'd ever done. She admitted she thought the wedding might somehow balance the scales. That if I showed up and didn't fall apart, it meant we were all okay now. She wrote, "You didn't deserve what happened. You never did. I don't know why I did it. I was scared. I was restless. I was trying to outrun something in myself and thought Aaron could fix it. But he can't. No one can. I see that now." And then she wrote this. "I don't want you to forgive me, but I needed you to know I still carry the version of us that was good. I hope you find something better. Someone who doesn't throw it away the minute it gets hard." It hit me harder than I expected. Not because I believed she had changed. And not because it softened what she did. But because it was honest. Finally. Brutally, humanly honest. That night, I wrote a reply. Not to send. Just to say the thing I'd been holding for over a year. You weren't the only one who was scared. I was too. I just handled it by trying harder. By believing if I gave more, you'd stay. But I see now you left long before you ever walked out. I hope Aaron gives you what you were looking for. And if he doesn't, I hope you stop looking for it in other people. I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted it. Because some truths don't need to be delivered. Some truths are just for you. I didn't hear from Aaron again. Not after the wedding. Not after the silence. And that was fine. Whatever peace he needed to make with his past, I wasn't going to be the one to hand it to him. Instead, I focused on the little things. I repainted the living room in my apartment, covered the walls that still echoed her laugh. I started cooking again, real food, not takeout in front of the TV. I called my sister more. I laughed with friends. I even started seeing someone, slowly, carefully, like learning how to trust in a language I hadn't spoken in years. And one night, maybe 2 months after the wedding, I saw a quote that stopped me cold. It said, Sometimes closure isn't about answers. It's about choosing to live like you already have them. That was it. I'd been waiting for someone else to make the pain make sense. But the truth is, betrayal rarely does. It just teaches. And once you've learned the lesson, the test is over. So I stopped reading the old texts. Stopped revisiting the what-ifs. Stopped rehearsing the speech I'd never give. Because in the end, the only thing I hadn't said was goodbye. There are some people you rehearse running into again. You imagine it in the grocery store, in traffic, maybe on a sidewalk outside a coffee shop. You picture what you'd say, something cold but clever, or kind but distant. A sentence that proves you've moved on without needing to say it outright. But the thing about real life is, it never follows your script. It happened on a Wednesday. I just left work early, ducked into a bookstore downtown to kill time before meeting some friends for dinner. It was one of those cozy little spots with creaky floors and staff picks handwritten in blue marker. I was flipping through a collection of essays when I heard the door chime behind me. And I felt it. Not the drama of it, not a rush of anger or grief. Just a quiet ripple. Like a tide pulling at my feet. I turned, and there they were. Lindsay and Aaron. They didn't see me at first. They were laughing about something, him carrying 2 iced coffees, her trailing behind with a tote bag slung over her shoulder. They looked normal. Not radiant. Not tragic. Just like 2 people living a life. And for a moment, I didn't feel anything. No weight in my chest. No bitter taste. Just breath. Easy. Even. That surprised me more than anything. They spotted me a few seconds later. Aaron's smile froze mid-sentence. Lindsay's hand twitched like she wasn't sure whether to wave or just disappear. I watched the moment register on both of their faces, that mixture of guilt, awkwardness, and uncertainty. I gave them a small nod. Not sarcastic. Not stiff. Just, real. Lindsay stepped forward first. "Hey," she said, quiet. Cautious. Like we were standing at the edge of something fragile. "Hey," I replied. Simple. Honest. Aaron just said my name like he wasn't sure it belonged to me anymore. We stood there for a second, the 3 of us in the non-fiction section, surrounded by books about truth. Then Lindsay asked, "How've you been?" And here's the strange thing, I told her. Not everything. Not the nights I laid awake. Not the therapy or the letter I never sent. But enough. "I've been good," I said. "Really?" And I meant it. She nodded. Aaron looked like he wanted to say something, maybe another apology, maybe something noble like thank you for coming to the wedding, but whatever it was, he swallowed it. And I was grateful. Because sometimes silence is the only kindness left between people who once loved each other. I said, "Well, I should get going. Friends waiting." She smiled, a little sad. "Take care of yourself." "You too," I said, and I meant that, too. I walked out without looking back. The door closed behind me, the breeze caught my collar, and I stepped into the street like a man who wasn't carrying their story anymore. Later that night, one of my friends asked how my day was. I said, it was weird. But good. Because it was. Seeing them didn't reopen anything. It didn't sting. It didn't spiral. It felt like watching the credits roll on a film you finally made peace with, not because it had a happy ending, but because you'd survived it. That night, I slept with the windows open. The air smelled like spring. Like something growing. And when I woke up the next morning, I didn't think about them at all. You'd think the story would be over after the bookstore. After the nod, the quiet goodbye, the peace in my chest that didn't ask for anything more. I thought so too. I really did. But life, in its strange, poetic way, had one last note it wanted me to read before the curtain fell. It came in the mail. A real letter. Envelope. Stamp. Handwritten return address in Lindsay's script, one I hadn't seen in over a year but still recognized instantly. My first instinct was to toss it. I even held it over the trash can, fingers twitching. But something about the weight of it made me pause. It wasn't heavy in the physical sense. But emotionally. It felt like holding the last page of a book you forgot you were still carrying. I opened it. No drama. No perfume on the paper. Just 2 pages, written in her steady, looping handwriting, the kind she used when she was nervous and trying to keep her hand from shaking. She started with, "I promise this is the last time." That's how I knew it was real. She didn't ask for anything. Didn't try to explain herself again. Said she'd been thinking a lot, about me, about the choices she made, about what it means to really love someone. She said Aaron was good to her, that their life was steady now, that she had what she thought she always wanted. But then she wrote this. "I still don't understand why I did what I did to you. But I think I've finally stopped trying to make it mean something. Sometimes we ruin good things not because they were wrong, but because we didn't know how to be right within ourselves. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to know that what we had was real to me. And it mattered. Even if I broke it. And then. You don't owe me anything. Not grace, not words, not even this moment. But if there's even a part of you that still wonders whether you were enough, you were. You always were." I read that last line twice. Then 3 times. And I'll be honest, it cracked something open in me I didn't know was still shut. Because the truth is, after she left, I didn't just grieve the loss, I doubted myself. Quietly. Deeply. I questioned what I could have done differently. Whether I missed some sign. Whether I failed as a partner, as a man, as someone who thought he was building something strong. And though I never said it out loud, not to Mark, not to my therapist, not even to myself, that question had been sitting in the corner of my heart ever since. Was I enough? And now, a year and some change later, the person who broke it all was telling me, yes. Not because she wanted back in. But because she finally understood the damage she'd done, and who she'd done it to. I didn't write back. I didn't need to. Because the answer wasn't for her. It was for me. It was in the way I felt lighter after reading it. The way my breath came easier. The way I didn't feel pulled to revisit the past anymore, not even to tie a bow around it. I folded the letter once, placed it in a drawer with a few other pieces of my life, not out of sentiment, but respect. That chapter was done. But it had shaped me. And not every scar needs to be covered up. That weekend, I took a solo drive up the coast. No plans. No destination. Just windows down, music up, and a feeling I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because everything had been made right. But because I finally stopped needing it to be. It didn't happen with fireworks. There was no big, cinematic moment where I threw my hands up to the sky and declared, "I'm finally free." No emotional montage. No string quartet swelling behind me as I walked into a new chapter of my life. No, the moment I realized I'd moved on came quietly, like most healing does. It was a random Tuesday morning. I was running late, coffee spilled on my shirt, keys hiding under a pile of unopened mail. I was muttering to myself about how I should have been out the door 20 minutes ago when I caught a glimpse of myself in the hallway mirror. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't see the guy who'd been cheated on. I didn't see the man who got the wedding invitation that came with betrayal baked in gold foil. I didn't see someone who'd been left behind. I just saw, me. A man in motion. Messy. Flawed. Still figuring it out. But whole. After that letter from Lindsay, I stopped telling the story. Not because it didn't matter, but because it didn't define me anymore. It wasn't the lens I saw everything through. It wasn't a wound I needed to explain. It was just something that happened. Something I survived. I started dating again. Slowly. Carefully. Not to replace something lost, but to explore what was still possible. I learned how to listen better, to others, sure, but mostly to myself. I gave fewer explanations. Set clearer boundaries. And most of all, I stopped performing strength and started actually feeling it. I built a new life. One made of simple things. Mornings that didn't start with a knot in my chest. Dinners I cooked for myself without needing a second plate. Phone calls that didn't leave me second-guessing my worth. I started volunteering at this local community garden, I don't know why, exactly. Something about putting your hands in the dirt makes you believe things can grow again. Even from wreckage. And they do. One day, a mutual friend mentioned Lindsay and Aaron had moved out of state. New jobs. New house. Starting a family, maybe. I didn't flinch when I heard it. I just nodded. Wished them well in my head and went back to the conversation I was having, didn't even notice I'd let them go mid-sentence. That's how healing works. Not as a grand gesture, but as the moment you forget to look over your shoulder. There was a time I thought closure would come from their apology. From their wedding. From a confrontation where I finally got the upper hand. But it didn't. Closure came the day I stopped hoping the past would fix itself. It came the day I walked into my own life and realized I wasn't holding my breath anymore. The final thread didn't snap, it unraveled slowly, until one day I noticed the rope was gone, and all I had left was air. Clean, open air. And I breathed. So if you've ever been the one left behind, the one who got blindsided, betrayed, rewritten out of your own story, let me tell you this. There's a day coming when you'll wake up and realize you forgot to hurt. You won't circle dates anymore. You won't scan crowds for their face. You won't rehearse conversations you'll never have. You'll just live. And that's the real ending. Not the apology. Not the closure. Not the big gesture. Just a quiet Tuesday morning when you look in the mirror and see yourself again. And that's enough.